Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the sixth Dine Learn of the summer. We're learning Hilchos Nedarim in Kehillah Meeting Park. I don't know who sponsored the dinner tonight, but whoever it was, Yishkar, thank you. It's a delicious dinner. Thank you, as always, Moshe Holzer, who's not here tonight, but for organizing everything. Tonight, I thought we would learn through a very interesting tshuva by Rav Yaakov Ariel that touches on a lot of issues, some having to do with Hilchos Nedarim, and some having to do with just general issues of life, that I found very fascinating, even though the shaila itself is very strange, which also, makes it more fun. So Rav Yaakov Ariel, he's a contemporary Rav. He's the chief rabbi of Ramat Gan in Israel. He's one of the leading poskim who are affiliated with the Rabbanut in one way or another. So this is a question that he was, in 2002, this question came up. So someone took a neder not to get a haircut for 3 years. In that time period, he was arrested and convicted and thrown in jail, which, that question itself raises, a lot to say about humanity and how people are from in one areas of their lives and not necessarily in other areas of their lives. Maybe we can say that he was unjustly convicted. It doesn't matter. The prison, they do not allow long hair as a matter of hygiene and as a matter of discipline. So is he required? And he doesn't want to be matir neder. He said, I took a neder. It's my, you're forcing me, it's religious coercion to force me to cut my hair. So first of all, mainly the question is are the jailers, are the prison guards allowed to force him to take a haircut? I don't know what the Israeli law allows, but at least al pi halacha, are they allowed? Or does that violate a biblical prohibition of his neder? It's a weird, off-the-wall question. Kind of goes back to the whole daf yomi in prison that they have. Be that as it may, it raises a lot of interesting questions. So the first thing... What do you mean?
They make you take it over. They give you a haircut.
Right, the question is, so in Israel you have actually from prison guards. So, what are they required to do? And if let's say they're going to force him to the prisoner, does the prisoner have to, lie motionless and have them drag him? Or can, he just walk along and sit down and, once he loses his appeal at whatever level he loses? So the first question is, did he take a neder or not? So that, it all depends on what language he used. Did he say it right or did he say it wrong? So they asked him what he said, and he said he couldn't remember whether it was a neder or a shvuah. And that makes a difference. It sounds like he intended to make a neder, but he said it in the language of a shvuah. Because in order to say a neder on your hair, you have to make the neder that your hair will not be cut. But it sounds like he took a neder, I take a neder, this is what he says, something like this, I will not cut my hair. So that's a shvuah, that he won't do something, but he used the language of neder. That's what it sounds like based on asking him questions. And it seems like he's not lying, because if he was lying, he would have made it stronger, which he didn't. So the question, first of all, is there anything even to talk about? Is that a neder? So that's actually machlokas rishonim. According to the Ramban, if you take a shvuah in the language of neder, that's a yad neder, that still counts as a neder.
Is one of them worse off than the other?
Shvuah is worse than a neder. But really the question here is there anything to talk about? According to the Rush, there's nothing to talk about. If you take a shvuah in the language of a neder, it's not chal. However, says the Rush, because people are easily confused, if we allow him to violate this, people might start violating actual vows, nedarim. So therefore, we're machmir and we tell him you have to do hataras nedarim, but really there's nothing to talk about. And we paskin like the Rush. So if we follow the Rush on this, then we would, in this particular case, we tell the prison guards, cut his hair, there's no problem, there's no neder, no shvuah, everything is mutter. But because of the Ramban, Rav Ariel didn't want to go so quickly that direction, and there's much more to talk about. So one issue that comes up is an Eved Knani. The Gemara says an Eved Knani, Sabraisa, so his master can force him, if he takes a vow to be a Nazir, his master can force him to drink wine. Because in those days they didn't have power juice, they didn't have Powerade or Gatorade. You either drank wine or you drank water. And water was for poor people and wasn't as healthy and it was dirty. Wine gives you strength. So if you're a servant and you vow not to drink wine, you're not going to be as strong as all the other slaves, and your master's going to lose out. So therefore the master can override the Naziris and force him to drink wine. However, it says Tan Rabbanan Lema Rabo Kovo. What can his master force him? L'nazirus avolo l'nedarim v'la'arachin. So the Gemara continues and discusses it, and it says, why not nedarim? Why can't the master force him to violate a neder? Because there is no neder. A servant, a slave, is not allowed, even if he takes a neder that somehow conflicts with his master's rights, the neder isn't chal at all. There's no vow. For example, if he vows he's not going to eat fruits and vegetables, so that means he's not going to be so healthy, he won't be as strong as so then it's not chal at all. He can eat fruits and vegetables no matter what, even though he took the vow. If he vows he's not going to eat strawberries, so then there's other things he can take, and he can eat vitamins, whatever it may be. The strawberries don't necessarily give us all the strength. If he vowed not to take spinach, that's already machlokas between Popeye and others. So, but if it conflicts with the master, so then there's no neder whatsoever. So the question could be, maybe this prisoner, if he takes a neder that violates the rights of his master, the prison guards, the prison system, so maybe the neder does not chal at all. However, not so fast as Rav Ariel. There is a custom, some people have a custom that they fast every Monday, sometimes every Thursday. Are you allowed to just volunteer on a fast? So generally speaking, yes, but there's some people who are not allowed to volunteer, and who it's actually surprising who is not. It's the exact opposite of what you might think. Says the Shulchan Aruch and Aruch Chaim in Hilchos Tanis, Siman Tov Kuf Ayin Aleph.
Volunteer for what?
To take a fast. To fast. Sif Beis Tamid Chacham Eino Rashai Leishiv Betanis. A Tamid Chacham is not allowed to fast. Why? Shememayit Bimlecha Shemayim. He's got work to do. His work is to learn Torah, and if he takes a fast, he's not going to have the strength, he's not going to be able to learn as well, he's not going to be able to teach as well. So it's also for him to take a fast, voluntarily, Elim Ken Kshat Zibur Misanim. Unless everyone else is fasting, Shelo Yifrosh Asmo Mehem. You have to be part of the Tzibur.
But many people that do.
Yeah, Reb Zadok in the Gemara. That's the kasha. We don't pass them like them. And adds the Shulchan Aruch, Umelamde Tinokos Dinam Ketamidei Chachamim. A yeshiva rebbe, an elementary school rebbe, is also like a Talmid Chacham. He's not allowed to fast because he has to be able to teach well. That's his job. Tinokos shel beis Rabban. They keep everything going, the world going. So the Rama also says this in Yoredeya. Ve'ein lemelamed lin or balayla yosem midai. This is important for all of us. A melamed is not allowed to stay up late at night learning, watching Netflix, whatever he's doing. Not allowed to stay up late at night. Shelo yiyeh azel beyom lelamed, because he can't be lazy. He can't be tired the next day. He's got a job to do. His job is to teach. Ve'chein lo yisana. He can't fast. Olazar b'marchel v'mishnah, and you can't undernourish yourself. Olecho v'lishtos yosem midai, and not overeat. Ki kol elu hadvarim gormim shelo yuchal lelamed heitev. Because all these things cause him not to be able to do his job. He's not allowed, he won't be able to teach as well. Now this applies to all of us. We stay up too late, we can't do our job. We're stealing from our bosses. So it says in Magen Avraham in Aruch Chaim something strange in the Rambam. The Rambam implies that why is the Rambam says, why is an Eved Kanani not any neder he takes, it's not chal? He says, the Rambam says, Shenafsho Kinuya Lo. His soul, his body, the Eved, he's owned by the master. He does not say the conclusion of the Gemara. The Gemara has a different conclusion. The conclusion of the Gemara is my Talmud Demakra Lahara Lahetiv. Says in the pasuk, you take a neder to do good, not to do bad, or to do good. Mahatova rishus afhara rishus. It has to be only things that are rishus. Yatza lahara lacherim she'ein harishus biyado. If you don't have rishus, if you don't have permission, if you don't have the ability to do something, then your neder is not chal. So Eved Kanani doesn't have an ability to do it. Therefore, his shvua is not, his neder is not chal. Says the Magen Avraham. The Rambam doesn't say like this conclusion. He says instead nafsho kenu yolo. So therefore, deduces the Magen Avraham that an Eved Ivri and a Sechir Yom, an employee, an Eved Ivri, their Nedarim are chal, because they technically have the Rishus. So what's the Rishus? Says the Magen Avraham, Yeshlom et Eved Ivri kemen de yochel lachzer b'chatzi hayom. An Eved Ivri. So let's say, how does someone become an Eved Ivri? He has a $60,000 debt. He sold into slavery for 6 years, $10,000 a year. He works for 3 years, and then he wins the lottery, and he gets $30,000. So he could pay for what's remaining of his debt to his owner, and he goes free. An Eved Ivri can free himself if he has the money. So since the Eved Ivri can free himself, Rishus Biyado, he could, in theory, fulfill this neder, and therefore the neder is chal. Same to the Schir Yom. If you're an employee and you're paid by the hour, you can stop in the middle of the day and say, I've had it with this job, and walk off the job. They won't pay you for the rest of the day, but you could do that. So the employee can walk off the job, and Eved Ivri can free himself. Therefore, the neder is chal. So the question is, a prisoner, what's he like? Is he like an Eved Knani? Is he like an Eved Ivri? Or is he like an employee? So Rabbi Yaakov Ariel seems to think a prisoner cannot free himself. Let's look at Jonathan Pollard. He's been in jail for 30 years. Baruch Hashem, he's being released, whether he was guilty or not, or bad or good or whatever. 30 years is a long time to be in jail. You can't free yourself. So it seems like the prisoner is like the Eved Kanani, and therefore any neder that a prisoner takes while in jail, while in prison, is not chal if it somehow conflicts with the rules of the prison. Because it's not his, he has no ability. So min haTorah, biblically that neder is not a neder. However, here we're talking about a neder he took before he became a prisoner. So what's the din there? Okay, so there's an interesting din before we get to this. Let's say there's a couple who's fighting. Generally speaking, the way halacha works is a husband is obligated to support, feed, and clothe his wife, and any money that the wife happens to earn belongs to the husband, because then you want one person in the family to own it, to be in control of the money. It doesn't have to be that way. A wife can say, I don't want your food and clothing, you don't get my money. That's actually proof. The Netziv brings its proof. Some people want to say a husband owes a wife. That's what the Kiddushin is. The husband, the marriage is when the husband acquires the wife. The Netziv says that actually doesn't work. It can't be that way. Because if it was that way, if the husband owned the wife wouldn't be able to say, I want to keep my money, just don't feed me and clothe me. That's not how ownership works. If the husband owned the wife, the money would automatically belong to him. Okay, be that as it may. So let's say a wife gets smart. She wants to go a different route, and she said, any money that I earn, I dedicate to the Beis HaMikdash. Boom, the husband is stuck. There's nothing he can't get any benefit from it. She's pretty smart. Does that work? Says the Gemara, no. Why? The Rabbanan say that his obligation, the obligation to him, takes priority over Hekdesh. You can't override a previous obligation. So the obligation already existed. Says Tosfos that applies to any obligation you have. If Shmuley owes me money, he can't suddenly dedicate it to the Beis HaMikdash, because his obligation to me, I'm a creditor, his obligation to me takes precedence. So therefore, says Rav Ariel also, the obligation to the tzibur, to the prison system, should take priority over any hekdesh, any neder that this prisoner would take. But that's while he's a prisoner. What about before? Okay, so there are two steps to this. So clearly, so let's assume for now that the neder actually is chal. He takes a neder, and for 6 months he doesn't cut his hair, and the neder is chal. Then he goes to jail. So that doesn't uproot the neder. But let's say the prison guards cut his hair. Do they violate any isser? And this also comes up to the feuding couple. So a feuding couple, and the husband says, I don't want my wife to get any benefit from anything that I do, any money that I have, anything. He's moder hana from her. She's not allowed to get any benefit. He took the neder, but the isser is on her. So let's say she does. She steals the credit card or takes the credit card and she buys her something or whatever. He buys something and then she borrows it. So she gets hana from him. Does she violate? Who gets malchus? Does the husband get malchus? Or does the wife get malchus? So that's machlokas rishonim. According to the Ran and the Rashba, the husband didn't violate the neder. He took the neder, but he didn't violate it. So therefore, the husband doesn't get any punishment. According to the Rambam, though, no. It's the husband's neder. He has to make sure that it's not violated. And if it is violated, it's his tough luck, and he gets a malchus. So what's going on here? Prisoner, he took the neder. So if the prison guards force him and cut his hair, so who gets the malchus? According to the Rambam, the prisoner gets the malchus. The prison guards, not their problem, not their neder, your problem. But according to the Ran and the Rashba, it is their problem. So therefore, according to the Ran and the Rashba, prison guards would not be allowed to cut his hair. And the truth is, even according to the Rambam, it's probably lifnei iver, so they have a problem there. So let's say the prison guards aren't from. Let's say they're not Jewish. They're going to force his prisoner to cut his hair. Does he have to go limp? Like in those protests where they sit out front and the police have to carry the limp bodies. Does he have to go limp as they carry him to the barber chair and then cut his hair? So this is a machlokas having to do with going to the mikvah on Friday night. Woman goes to the mikvah on Friday night. She didn't cut her nails beforehand. What does she do? So it's the machlokas, the shach and the taz. The shach says, go to a non-Jewish woman, have the non-Jewish woman clip the fingernails. So the woman doesn't do anything wrong. It's the non-Jewish woman. The Jewish woman didn't do anything, and the non-Jewish woman is not bound by the laws of Shabbos. It's good. Everybody's happy. The Taz says, no. It's called Mesayea. You're helping out. Just like, for example, cutting the payas. Then is if you can't cut your own payas, and you can't sit still while someone else cuts your payas, because you are Mesayea, you're helping. Just by sitting still and allowing them to cut it, you're helping. So is that a special halacha by payas? Or is it a general halacha to everything? So the shach says it's specific to payas. Anything else, you're allowed to put out your hands. You're not doing the cutting, you're good. Taz says no, it's a general halacha, applies to all halachas, and therefore a woman is not allowed to let a non-Jewish woman clip her fingernails. So too, according to the shach, the prisoner could just sit in the chair, and he's not doing anything. And the Taz, according to the Taz, you're not allowed to sit there. You have to just lie limp, and they'll have to hold your head up and cut your hair. I mean, it's not such a great thing. But the Ariel wants to go one step further and be a little more makel. He's saying, someone takes a neder, they're not going to get their hair cut. They don't mean no one's going to hold me down, clamp me into a chair, and buzz my hair. That's not what they have in mind. Their neder never really applied to such a situation. And therefore, even the Taz would say, you're not obligated, this is not a violation of the neder. Because the neder is only, you say you're not going to get a haircut, means you're not going to voluntarily go down the street to Joe's barbershop and sit down and pay him for the haircut. Doesn't mean that you're not going to allow people to force you. So one more step that Rav Ariel takes, which I found very interesting, is what's the idea of going to prison? Where in the Torah do you see that anyone's allowed to put you in prison? So there's only one case in the Chumash of going to a prison. That was the Mekoshesh. They had to figure out what to do with him. So there's a difference between a jail and a prison. Jail is just a holding cell while they figure out what's going on. Prison is once you're convicted, you're sent off to Sing Sing or wherever it is, and to do your time. So prison we don't find in the Torah. However, this I found very insightful. I've never seen this, and it requires more thought. He doesn't develop it. He says generally there's a difference on how we view punishment in the Torah compared to secular values, general society. General society sees multiple reasons for punishment, for imprisonment. One is to deter, so people won't want to do crime because they'll be scared, they'll go to jail. Another is to take dangerous people off the streets. And another is to punish them. They did the crime, they have to do their time. Torah, he says, is really just worried about the victims. So, for example, we see many times the Torah requires monetary payment for things that we think you really should get punished more for that. And he says the reason is because you want to give back to the victim. You want to make the victim whole. And if monetary compensation, that will do it, good. If imprisonment will make the person whole or will protect society, so that's also what you want to do. So imprisonment, he says, is all about protecting society and protecting the victim. While in secular society, there's also this value of punishment. And he has a raya, he has a proof, and that's the Rambam in Hilchos Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin, any dayan, v'chein yesh lo. So normally there are certain halachas. You give malchus, you do this, you do that. The standard punishments we know from Mishnah, and from Gemara, and from Chumash. So the Rambam says there are also other punishments. A dayan can do whatever he thinks is necessary. V'chein yesh lachbos yadayim v'raglaim. You can hold people, you can handcuff them, you can chain their feet together, you can lock them up in a prison, V'litzchof al aretz, you could push him around, you could waterboard him. It doesn't say waterboard, but shenemar hein lamavis hein l'shrushe hein la'anish nechsin l'asari. The pasuk says there are many different ways of punishments that a dayan can impose if he feels it's necessary beyond what the halacha requires. And among those is imprisonment. And when Eretz Yisrael first started, there was a big question among the Rabbanim, should we oppose this whole idea of imprisonment, just like they do in America and Europe. Israel will also set up a prison system. Should the Rabbanim oppose it? The conclusion was no. If that's what society needs, then it's allowed. However, Rav Ariel says it all has to be for the benefit of society and not intended for punishment. So if that's the case, so imprisonment is actually something the Torah supports in our situation. And therefore, so he was saying maybe the prison guards, maybe the whole idea of imprisonment shouldn't be compared to Eved Knani. It should be something that we don't approve. And therefore, he took the neder, he should keep the neder. This whole going to prison is something that we don't approve of. He says, no, actually we do approve of it. It's a good thing if it's good for society and it protects people. So therefore, his conclusion was, it's an interesting thing, many tshuvas nowadays, more recent tshuvas, I don't think it's because of the internet. I think it preceded the internet, but at some point, our attention span just shrunk. So you see Rav Ovadia Yosef and many people after him, at the end of the tshuva, they give the conclusion, the summary. Right? And so we don't have to read the whole thing, we just skip to the end. So his conclusion was that the prisoner is not allowed to cut his own hair, but if they take him to cut his hair, he doesn't have to fight. He could just sit down and let them cut his hair, and the prison guards are perfectly allowed to do such a thing. Lo aleinu shouldn't happen to us, but I thought it was a very, very interesting tshuva on this strange neder that happened.